Okay. All right. So welcome everyone. So we're going to talk about the California Bird Atlas today. Okay, so we got five people on here. Has anyone who has heard of the Atlas and who has not?
I've heard of it.
Have you been
Yep.
doing it, Carol, Meg?
Yes. Yes, I
Okay.
have. And I've got a couple questions, which is partly why I'm here tonight.
Okay, awesome. Meg, you've heard of it.
I've heard of it. I've been with Michelle when she's got it going, but I haven't done it on my own with my own account, eBird.
Okay, gotcha. Denise, Melissa, or Dawn?
No, I haven't just heard it from this website, so
Okay,
um,
cool.
Never have I ever heard of this until everyone blasting me like incessantly in the last week or so. And I'm like, what is going on from all avenues? I'm like, all right, well, somebody. And I heard it from you first. So here I am.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I feel like I got back into town. I was like, all right, we gotta get let people know, and so just got a repetition. One. Okay. So the California Bird Atlas. Actually, here, let me just share my screen. All right, can everyone see that?
yes.
Okay, and then wait, where was the other thing? Oops. Hold on, stop share. I pulled down another window. Let's find that window. Oh, good, Jeff. You got someone else. I think I admitted one more person. Yes, Jeffrey, hello.
Hi. Sorry I'm late.
No, well, I'm sorry. We had a little mix up with the link.
Also the last LinkedIn. Yeah, we had a mix up. They had a mix up with the last link. That's okay. I'm in. Thank you.
No
Hello from
problem. Just
Asheville.
from Nashville. Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Cool,
Asheville,
cool.
North Carolina. Yeah, Cherokee
Oh,
land.
Asheville. Gotcha.
Yeah,
Asheville.
yeah, Asheville. Yeah, Blue Ridge Mountains, Western North
Beautiful.
Carolina.
Beautiful. Wow. Just letting you know,
Yeah, tell
Jeffrey,
me about
I am recording this, so don't say anything
it.
incriminating about
Okay,
yourself,
thank you.
okay?
All right, thank you.
All right. Screen is back now. Okay. So this is all about the California Breeding Bird Atlas, but for those of us who are not in California, this honestly this will still apply. Different states have done different breeding atlases at different times. So again, wherever you're at, you can find that out. But we're going to focus on California here. And first question is, what is a breeding bird atlas? So really what it is, it's a multi-year project. So for California, this is going to be 5 years. So this was the first year, 2026, and we're going to go through 2030. And
Hmm.
really the point is to try to document the both distribution of where birds are breeding and also the timing of where birds are breeding. So this is going to give us a snapshot of where these birds are breeding, and you can see some different examples here of actual publications. So the European Breeding Bird Atlas, the breeding birds in Ohio, Massachusetts, Nevada, New York. Here we have one from Ohio. So yeah, these are done all over the place. And this is the first year that California is doing one. So 44 states in the US have published statewide breeding bird atlases. 19 states have conducted them more than once and see how things change over time. And there are 6 states that have never done that. And we are sadly one of them until this year. But you can see Alaska, Hawaii, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, and then, of course, us. So, and you can see places like New York and Pennsylvania, they are on it. For North Carolina, we got at least 2 breeding bird atlases have been conducted. Colorado, South Dakota. So really, California is kind of behind the times here, which is, I think, a bit unusual for our state, but we got there eventually. So in the state, there are some kind of county level breeding bird atlases. So you can see Humboldt, Nevada, Sacramento, Solano, Napa, Sonoma, Marin, Contra Costa, Alameda, San Mateo, Santa Clara, Monterey, LA, Orange, and San Diego counties have published a breeding bird atlas just for the county specifically. But again, this is only covering 17% of the state. The state is a huge state, and you can obviously see it is biased towards coastal and extremely densely populated areas. So LA, the Bay Area, Sacramento, those are the places that are going to get covered. You can see there's pretty much little coverage in the Central Valley, not too much in the northern part of the state, and then also in the deserts like Inyo, Mono, San Bernardino, Riverside, Imperial, thing really there. So this kind of also goes along with how the state is surveyed. So you can see these are eBirder data. So eBirders again are going to be where people are. So you can see most of the data is along the coast here in LA, Orange, and San Diego counties, up here in the Bay Area. And we do have some coverage kind of going into the capital region, and then some along the backside of the Sierras. But we have a lot of data missing, particularly from the eastern side of the state where the Mojave Desert is, and from the coastal ranges, and then of course from Northern California. And really this, we'll talk about what an atlas block is in a bit, but this results in more than 30% of atlas blocks never even having a single minute of survey effort during the migration season. And so these are total surveys here on the left, and these are surveys that are actually noting breeding behavior. So again, red means nothing. You can see the actual surveys that have any indication of breeding behavior, like a nest with young or a fledglings, anything like that. You can see that's even lower than actual surveys itself. So again, over 80% of blocks in the whole state has not received a documented breeding behavior, not even for a single species like a house finch or nothing basic like that. All right. So we're changing that. And the reason I wanted to do this is because we are one of the founding partners. Conejo Valley Audubon is one of the founding partners for this, along with all sorts of other Audubon chapters and larger societies and organizations like Fish and Game, Audubon California, the Institute for Bird Populations, Western Field Ornithologists. Again, lots of people are involved in this, and we are one of the chapters involved in this. We contributed money to get this started, so I thought it was important that we understand how it works. Okay, so basic approach. You take the Atlas region, which is the state of California here, and you divide it into Atlas blocks. So this is based on the USGS, that's United States Geological Survey. They have quadrants that divide up a block, and so then we further divide those blocks even more. So typically they're about 3 miles by 3 miles. That's the size of an Atlas block. So again, about 9 square miles, not really terribly big. So this is what it looks like for the whole state. You can see we're a big state. If you take those 3 by 3 blocks and you divide them up, you get about 16,527 blocks covering the entire state. So that is kind of the survey unit. When you're doing these kind of checklists for the atlas, you have to stay within a block. And again, we'll talk about that more later. So any questions about the blocks or anything so far?
No,
Only that it's frustrating when you leave one block and you go to another. I think it helps to look at the blocks before you go to the park that's bisected that's part of 2 blocks.
Yeah, and so what Carol's talking about, and I'll go over this more tomorrow in the field because I think it's a little easier to demonstrate. But when you're doing this is run through eBird. So if you ever do eBird or submit a checklist through eBird using the eBird mobile app, you do everything normal, but there's 2 kind of differences. One of them is you have to stay within a block. And there are some areas, like even a park, where the block ends and a new block begins. And so you're not supposed to do a checklist that covers more than 1 block. So that is kind of a technicality that can be a bit frustrating. But that's, again, I think it's a little easier to show in the field. So again, like this atlas is going to run from 2026 to 2030, and then we will be analyzing and reporting that and applying that data to the next 4 years, and hopefully have another one sometime in the future. And the main point of this is to document breeding behavior. And so this is kind of, if you've never done this, this is kind of what it looks like. So this is a little screenshot of the eBird app. Here we see we have the mourning dove. So again, if you haven't used the eBird app, that's fine. I can show you how to do that in the field, or actually I have a video. I'll post a video in the chat of how I made of how to use the eBird app. So the only difference is, again, you have to stay within the block, and then you have to add these breeding codes. So you click on the bird, mourning dove, and you click breeding codes. So they have all these different ones. F is not really even a breeding code, so you can ignore that. But H, S, S7, M, P, all the way through NY. And you can see here in the middle, we have what they mean. So the highest breeding code is going to be nest with young. Obviously, they're nesting there. They have hatched, and they are taking care of their young. Then nest with eggs. So young haven't hatched yet, but the nest has eggs, so it's active. FS, carrying fecal sac when passerines, so songbirds, when they hatch and when they are nestlings, they'll poop out basically these little tiny sacks of poop, and the parents will carry them away from the nest. So typically that means the nest is close by, but you may not know exactly where it is. Feeding young, that kind of refers to the nestlings have already fledged, but they're still dependent on the parents. Carrying food, that means you notice an adult with food in its mouth, and you're like, oh, it must be going to a nest. FL, recently fledged young, and it's like a young that has fledged that is not maybe can fly a little bit, but can't totally. Has a little yellow in the gape, so it still has that kind of baby bird mouth to it. So that's going to be when you would use that code. ON, occupied nest. Again, if you see an adult on the nest, but you can't tell if there's eggs or there's young. UN is kind of a weird one. We'll skip that for now. DD, distraction displayed. That's usually things like killdeer. They'll do what we call a broken wing display. If you're getting near their nest, they'll try to distract you away from it. Nest building and then carrying nesting material. Those ones I think are fairly self-evident. PE, that's really not going to be something we use a lot. That's only if you're a bander and you actually have the bird in your hand and you can see whether they're breeding or not. B, woodpecker and wren nest building. This is a different code because woodpeckers and wrens often build lots of dummy nests. So if you see a nest, that may not actually be an active nest. So that's why it is listed under the probable codes. A, agitated behavior. That's gonna be like if a bird looks like it's trying to, you see a crow attacking a red-tailed hawk. Right, it's probably have a nest in the area. So again, that's going to be something that's probably a nest, but you can't confirm it exactly. And then other ones, N, visiting a probable nest site. C, courtship display. T, territorial defense. P, if you see like a male and female together, or if you hear birds singing for 7 days, or multiple birds singing. So it kind of goes from starting with H and S, appropriate habitat, singing males. Sometimes birds sing even if they're not on the breeding grounds, all the way up to, oh yeah, there's definitely a nest, it's definitely active. So a lot of this is, and again, in the eBird Atlas website, they have links of like when you would use these specific codes and what they kind of mean. And you can see they have some pictures over here of nests with young, carrying nesting material, courtship display, or in the right habitat. So you can kind of see some of the differences there. But what I like about this atlas is that it kind of forces you, maybe forces is a strong word, but it really encourages you to learn more about the breeding biology of birds. And that's something that a lot of us who've been like doing this and are heavily involved in it are still learning of like, oh wow, I didn't know that black phoebes did this kind of thing or what have you. And so you kind of really get to dive in and learn more about the birds as you are surveying. So again, the only difference between this and if you are familiar with eBird is you just have to make sure you have all these nesting codes. And for the blocks, you want to make sure that you're in one block. Again, okay, here, I'm going to join. I'll join on my phone here and I'll kind of show you an example of what it would look like if you're doing this on eBird. Any questions while I join on my phone here?
Is this an appropriate time to ask which breeding code to use?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So, for instance, surveying where there are cliff swallow nests under a bridge or near the bridge. So I noticed I used nest sometimes, and I noticed that you have used occupied nest. Now, I used nest because I could see birds in the area and I could see birds in one case going in and out, but I didn't know if that would really be occupied nest or would be used nest. Now, but there's a nest, they are going in and out of that nest in addition to just being in the area. And
Yeah, I
then,
would put that as occupied nest. If it was used nest, would be something if you see cliff swallow nests, and maybe you see cliff swallows or you know there's cliff swallows around, but you don't actually see a bird enter the nest, then I would put that as used nest. But for occupied nest, if a bird is actually entering and obviously using the nest, then I would put that as occupied nest.
then another time with cliff swallows again, um, I had actually entered the breeding code as occupied nest because I saw the cliff swallow in the nest. But upon further observation, I believe the cliff swallow was building the nest. So I don't think it was yet breeding, but I mean, I could see the differences in the color of the mud, and the cliff swallow had like a muddy face. I mean, it had been
Right. It was
poking down that material. And so um, I don't know. I had already put occupied nest. I didn't change it, but I'm not sure what was the best code there.
Yeah, that would probably, yeah, and so that's kind of gets to what this, a lot of it is a bit like you have to use judgment for sure. So in that case, maybe if it looks like, oh, I think this bird is still like building the nest, then you would probably put that as, yeah, NB nest building.
Okay, that's what I should have done. Yeah. Um, good deal. And then I don't know if you want more questions or not, Sammy, but I have them. Okay.
Here, let me show folks how to do this, and then I'll take more of your questions. How's that sound, Carol?
Sounds good.
Okay. So I'm gonna mute myself.
Question now?
He's signing on to his phone now.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna go change clothes.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. I think people should be able to hear me. Can everyone hear me all right? No. Oh, actually. Okay. All right. So I will let myself share the screen. Share caption. Mhm. Mhm. I'm able to share my screen from this phone, but I don't think when others share it yet. That's what I'm gonna do. No. Okay. Here, I'll do something different instead then. I'll just go back to sharing my screen on here. And we'll just go to ebird.org. All right, we'll just do this the old-fashioned way. Okay. Let's see where. There you go. All right, so this is pretend I'm on the app. I guess it doesn't matter. You can be on the app. What is it? 7:45. We'll say this 10 minutes myself. Okay. All right. So you have your list of birds, and let's say I have some mourning doves outside. So let's say I found a mourning dove nest. I go here to add details and again go to breeding code. So for breeding code, you want to choose the highest possible one. So obviously they're on the nest, but if I can tell that they're feeding young, or like if I can tell, let's say I see the nest has eggs, so then I would choose that. All right, and that would be the highest breeding code. And let's say too, there's oh, Don, you had a question, or did you mean to raise your hand? All right. Okay, so then let's see. Let's say we had a hummingbird. So Anna's hummingbird. Oops. All right. And they do a courtship display. And so let's say they do this high kind of steep dive. And so let's say you saw them doing their dive. You go here and click on courtship display. A couple things to note, right? Anna's hummingbirds are very territorial over food as well. So if you see them chasing over feeders, that's not a breeding behavior. That's just a food behavior. So part of this is learning the birds and their individual habits. So they're not defending a territory per se, they're just defending their food source. Then let's say, so actually today I was riding and I saw a couple dark-eyed juncos. So I actually saw one adult and three fledglings that had left the nest. And so if they've left the nest or, if they've hatched, basically you put that. And so I put the adult was feeding the young, and then in my description I put one male junco feeding, three begging young. So, then that would be a confirmed breeding code because obviously they just hatched, and there you go. So, again, I wanted to show this on the app, and again, maybe I'll show that. Actually, I have a video. I can put this in the link and maybe send this out. But
Uh,
when you submit this, it will ask on the eBird mobile app, have you submitted every possible breeding code? And so then you would make sure you did. You click yes, and there you go. Don, did I interrupt you?
no, I had trouble with my volume or like the mute button earlier. So there is a question that I wanted to ask when there's a good
Yeah, go for it.
opportunity. Okay. When you say higher breeding code, what does that mean?
Like basically they go in tiers of like lowest probability, like, oh, this bird, I hear a bird singing,
Yeah.
it could be breeding in the area, but who knows? As a compared to I see a bird with a nest with eggs in it. Oh, they definitely are breeding because I see a nest with eggs.
But yeah, and I think they were like color coded, I
Yeah.
suppose. And so within like a color, are they all equal or is there
Kind
a
of,
higher?
but like generally eBird has it. So they have nests with young. So this would be the highest one.
Okay.
And then like H, appropriate habitat, would be the lowest one. So generally I just go by the kind of order that it's presented online.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, yeah. So you do that and then you submit that, and then you've now you're part of the bird atlas. So let me show you. Yeah, I will show you my little checklist I submitted just earlier today. Actually, out here. So yeah, I was just riding to the gym and I saw a couple of dark-eyed juncos. So again, I put that. You see feeding young confirmed, and then I heard a goldfinch and I heard a titmouse. I didn't hear or see them do anything besides that, so I just put H there. I know they breed around here, so appropriate habitat. But I had seen a couple weeks ago, I had seen a titmouse feeding a young nestling. So, but in this particular one, again, it was just a short checklist, 3 minutes long. That's what I put. So yesterday I was over at Point Magoo Naval Base, and again so this was a little longer checklist. So I saw some elegant terns. I saw them doing a courtship display. One turn brought a fish to another turn. They danced around in circles, and then then they did the deed, and so I coded that. And then I saw some savanna sparrows, specifically the Belding's subspecies, and I heard some begging. And again, I saw an adult feeding a chick, and so a recently fleshed chick. I meant to say fledged there. So, but I also heard a towhee singing. Singing again is a territorial thing, and I know these towhees are residents; they don't migrate through. So I put singing bird present for 7 days. Same thing with the house finch. Again, so most of these are just kind of, you know, you're not going to see a ton of like breeding activity because birds don't want you to see that, obviously, especially their nests. But so most of them are going to be kind of like hearing the birds singing or in their appropriate habitat. So, anyways, okay. Any questions kind of about that before we get back to the presentation here? All right, make this slideshow big again. We have a chat. Okay, where's the show? Okay. Then another thing with this atlas, like I mentioned, is this is going to be repeated over time because we want to see how birds respond to changing landscape, changing temperature, changing, environmental cues, all sorts of things. And so we repeat this over time. Compare this, some of the first atlases were run back in the 60s and 70s. And so there are real gaps in the knowledge that we have. And as we do this, we obviously learn more and more, especially with the advent of eBird. So you see this map here is a map of the distribution of red-breasted nuthatches. So you can see they are year-round, pretty much in the coastal part of Oregon and California, along the Sierras, and even here into some of the local mountains. And they come down here in the non-breeding season in LA and other areas as well. But the important thing to note is that these are just basic observations. These aren't actually breeding observations. So just because a bird is in an area during the breeding season does not mean it may actually be there. Um, Part of this is sometimes birds will breed and actually have their nest in different areas compared to where they forage. Sometimes the habitat isn't really the best habitat, and so it's not really a true representation of where the birds are breeding. Or it could be young birds or birds dispersing after they have already bred, and there could be a whole variety of things. So really what we want to do is we want to get them when they're breeding. So here's an example of golden eagles. So this is actually professional data from surveyors surveying for golden eagles. So you can see this is in the Bay Area, kind of the San Jose side. The distribution of golden eagles is much different than when they were actually where they're actually nesting. So they're nesting kind of up in here. They're huge birds, right? Raptors that cover a lot of ground. So again, just because you see a bird there doesn't mean it's necessarily reproducing there, and this is why the breeding codes can be more helpful. We use these to build models, but again, with models comes uncertainty, and particularly when it comes to regulatory issues. Again, the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, passed over 100 years ago, prevents the taking of active nests, but you actually need to have an active nest, not the potential nest. And so if we can get information of where birds are actively nesting and actively using the habitat, then we can use that for conservation issues moving forward. Another thing that we mentioned is timing. This is a fancy word here, phenology. I want everyone to say phenology.
Phenology.
Phenology. Yeah, so that is the timing of when birds breed. Breeding birds are adjusting their phenology, and this is one really strong piece of evidence, if people didn't believe in climate change, that climate change is occurring because birds are nesting earlier and earlier across multiple different species, multiple different families and genera. So, example, oak titmice are nesting almost 2 weeks earlier than they did just 30 years ago. So again, that is something we can track if we do this we're doing this for multiple years this time, but if we do it again, maybe say in 15, 20 years, we can see how that's changed even more. Okay, so again, California, the part of the reason we haven't done this is because California is a huge, huge state. But now with the advent of things like eBird and just technology in general, we can cover a lot of ground and cover a lot of area. So in eBird, just as all years, we have over 100,000 eBird users, almost 7 million checklists. And in 2003, over 800,000 volunteer hours. So a lot of potential to harness our power as citizen scientists to look through eBird and then really help out with this. So this is kind of giving you an example of how an old breeding bird atlas was coded, right? You had an actual physical pen and paper, writing it down, then you got to mail it in. So again, this is why California hasn't really taken on one until now. So some data from our first year, we have over 121,000 atlas checklists, 4,350 atlasers, and 6,990 atlas blocks with at least some data. So almost half of our atlas blocks have already been coded with some data. So you can see this project has really encouraged the uses of breeding codes. So we started in January. Again, birds are still breeding in January. Hummingbirds, owls, raptors, they're already starting their breeding. You can see just how much of a difference there is compared to past years, right? This specific project really has encouraged all of us to use these breeding codes in a more specific and targeted way. All right, so again, to get involved, you can do this ebird.org/Atlas California. You can join the project there. So this is a screenshot of my Atlas homepage. So I've confirmed 38 species. I've submitted 157 complete checklists. I've covered 68 blocks. So again, if you use eBird, if you don't, that's okay. But if you do use eBird, this is how you can join the project. And then if you use the mobile app, all you have to do is when you open up the mobile app, you go to choose projects and you click California Bird Atlas, and there you go. And again, only difference is when you submit the checklist, you just have to make sure all the breeding codes are there. And then you have to make sure if you click on the map, you have to make sure you're staying within the block. So another fun thing, and you can, if you guys want to, you can copy this. I'll send this. Oh, can I click on? Oh, I can click on the link directly. I can. This is called Blockboard, and so this is actually live tracking. So this is my square here, Newberry Park Southwest. So this is actually live tracking of what is happening, what species have been confirmed and coded. So we can see we have confirmed house finches, lesser goldfinches, oak titmice, wren tits, black phoebe, bush tit, red-tailed hawk, cliff swallow, dark-eyed junco. All these birds have been coded. And you can zoom out and you can see where there is lots of data. So again, areas like LA, Orange County. Oops. Not terribly surprising. There's lots of data there. But you can see there's sparse data here in the northern part of Ventura County and in parts of Kern County. Again, these are going to be the more inaccessible areas. Again, you zoom out more generally, you can see the trend kind of continues. There is more coverage in here, and again, that's to be expected. Not as much coverage in areas where it is more remote, but we still do have some coverage here, even out in the desert areas. So again, I'll share with you guys this link, and then you can look through the slides on your own. So it's just kind of fun if you're into the data aspect of it. That's kind of a fun thing to explore. And then, of course, if you want to donate to the Bird Atlas, so this is, they do have staff that are actively working and managing this and analyzing the data and writing up reports every month. So you can look, again, I'll just show you right here. So you can go to, just California Bird Atlas, type that into Google. So this is the home page. Again, you can see the team here. So Van is the director. We have a couple of, so a lot of this is people who work in different research capacities all throughout the state. Sam is one of our main kind of data analysts. Megan is another review coordinator, along with Justin. And also we have regional coordinators. So I'm one of those regional coordinators. You can kind of see the directory there. So whatever area you're in, you have a regional coordinator. So if you have questions, you can email them. and you can see me. Matt Brady is also one of our regional coordinators here for Ventura, Angel, and David as well. So that is how you can get involved. And then, of course, you can talk to them, info@californiabirdatlas.org. But I think that's all I have in terms of my presentation. Any other questions that I can help out with?
Sure.
Yeah, go, Carol.
So back to some of those breeding codes. So
Yes.
the singing bird present 7+ days. Do I have to see the bird or be in that area 7 days or maybe just a week before? How do I justify using that code? Anyway.
That's a really good question. So part of this is there's a lot of data cleanup that's going to happen on the back end. And so if there is if a bird has been singing for 7 days in that, coded consistently, we can just code that and take care of it in one microsecond of a computer process. So that's not something you have to terribly worry about. But what I do is if I know this is we're in the middle of the breeding season, I know this resident bird has been here for at least a week. I just put singing 7, even if I haven't witnessed it directly, but I know spotted towhee didn't just migrate in; they stay here year round, and they this well into the breeding season. So, but at the beginning of the season, if I haven't heard it myself, or I haven't seen a checklist that says it, I just put singing male. And then if that has been reported more than 7 days, that'll get converted to S7.
Okay. Then next question. Oh, I had the good luck to see a nest of just very recently fledged towhees, California towhees, probably fledged some of them just the day before. So there weren't eggs. I didn't see a parent feeding them. Which would I just use recently fledged, I guess? I mean, they didn't have any hardly downy young on them. I guess that'd have to be what I would use is recently fledged young.
Yeah, that's and typically you want to if it's obvious they just fledged, they're still they're still got their down or they have that yellow gape. Oops. If it's
Eyes
obvious they
closed.
just I would still I would use that code. So again, a lot of this is there is a bit of subjection to this. We actually have a group chat on WhatsApp for all the different regional coordinators, and these are things we talk about all the time. Is it appropriate to use this code then? And so this isn't something where we would much rather have people put in data and maybe you don't get the exact right code rather than not put anything in all because you're too wrong to get the code or too afraid to get the code wrong. This is why also we encourage people to put notes. So, write what you saw. And then if it's something where oh, maybe this code would be more appropriate, we can then change it based on what you noted in the field. But again, really, as certain things like recently fledged young versus feeding young, these are confirmed codes, and that's what really matters. Kind of the main big categories is what we're really interested in.
How do you know what block you're in?
Yes. So if you submit this to eBird, it will show you. That's what I was trying to show you on my phone, but it didn't. Oh, here, actually, I'll put this. So this is a video I made just a couple of days ago on my YouTube channel. A little more of the micro details. So I'll put this here, and then I'll also the if you want to watch this more in general, put this in the chat. But I will jump ahead to a area where I have. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again. All right, so here I am with Frank. Play this. If you can hear the audio or not, doesn't matter actually. I don't think you can. All right, so you can see here I am on the eBird app, and then so the eBird app will show you the block you're in. So if you go and I'll jump back a little bit. So when you go to you're on eBird, choose just mute this in case it is playing. You click choose the location, and it'll show you like, okay, next to the Santa Clara River. So you click that, and then you have to wait a little bit. You can see it popped up. And so that shows you what actual block you're in.
Okay.
So you can see the blue is the actual path we took. So we stayed within the block the whole time. But let's say we're on the north edge of the harbor and you might cross in and out of the blocks there a couple times. And so that's where you would use it to check. Also, if you're actively using eBird and like it's tracking your location, it'll warn you and say you're outside the block. And it'll tell you or encourage you to stop the checklist. So
Mm.
again, that's something you can only really see on eBird mobile app when you're doing it on the mobile app. So if you don't use the mobile app, then just make your choose your location and it'll choose the block for you.
I think if you want to know ahead of time, like where you're going and what the block is, you can use that block board and see what the blocks are too.
Yes, you can. If you want, again, if you want to go to Blockboard, go back here. You can go and see where you are. So you can turn this into satellite or street data, so you can see where you're at. So again, I'm in Newberry Park here. This is kind of my block. Yeah, if I was up more closer to the freeway, I'd be in a different block, Newberry Park CE. That's central. All right, any other questions?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment, and that what I've done so far, and well, usually birding with someone else, but we seem to bird slower, and I'm not fast anyway, but we bird slower and we look and listen more carefully. So it really it's really enriched the birding experience.
Yeah, I totally feel like I've experienced that as well. Yeah, you definitely look a lot more slowly and carefully, and I think it does get you in even more tune with things.
Then you come home and try to look up. Now, where do California towhees really nest?
Yeah, what kind of habitat and yeah, microhabitat.
On the ground, in the shrub. Yeah. So
Yeah. All right. Melissa, to drop off. Bye, Melissa. But yeah, if you're coming to the walk tomorrow, we'll go over this more. But again, if you want to watch the YouTube channel, if you're watching this recorded, you go to my YouTube channel, Birding with Sammy, and then the beach birding episode is where I kind of show and explain how to do this. And I share my screen, so it's a little easier to follow along. So. But I think I'm going to stop the recording here officially. We can still hang around and chat if people want to chat a little bit more, but I'm going to stop the recording here officially.